Strategy battle gamers around the world, welcome to a video that so many of you out there have been waiting for. This is of course the video that announces the release of the Ardacon 2017 event and schedule pack, which is now available to download from www.hotgatesgaming.com. So guys, I do recommend that you go and check that out immediately if you've got intentions to attend this event. This video, the purpose behind this video is to talk you through the event pack and maybe clear up any areas that some of you might not be certain of. Now the event pack is very comprehensive and talks through all three of the main tournaments that are going to be going on during the Ardacon event weekend, as well as giving a loose guideline of what else will be going on, although there are many things which are going on which I haven't included in the pack, and of course some things which are still going to be subject to change even with just 2.5 months left to go before the event. I'm absolutely stoked because over half the tickets have already sold, and it'd be amazing to make Ardacon this year be even bigger and even better than last year, which I'm sure it will be. Let's get straight into the tournament pack and go through some of the things which are going to be very, very important for you guys over the weekend. And the best place to start with that is probably the question that I've been being asked the most about whilst this pack hasn't been released, and that is the schedule. So of course Ardacon this year is a 3-day event, and this is to ease some of the timetable pressures that existed last year. Last year there was very little room for error, and if anything went wrong or there were any kind of delays or any kind of technical faults or anything at all, it did mean that we ended up, particularly on the Saturday, playing quite late on into the night. Whereas having a 3-day event, it takes a lot of the pressure off that, and it allows people who are attending not just to feel like they are going from tournament to tournament, game to game to game, but get to enjoy the rest of the tournament as well. So the tournament schedule actually kicks off on the Thursday evening. This is Thursday the 3rd of August, and that's because that'll be the night when me and my Ardacon events team will be setting up the main convention suite, which is of course in the Macleod Piccadilly in Manchester, United Kingdom. And what we will be looking to set up first of all is going to be the registration desk. And we're inviting anybody who arrives at the event reasonably early. You have the option to come and register for the event early, and hopefully this will ease some of the congestion of course having 200 plus strategy battle gamers from all over the world trying to get in on Saturday morning and avoid those queues. So advanced registration will be 7 PM on the Thursday, and advanced registration then continues also on Friday morning. So although the convention suite won't be open until 9 o'clock in the morning, the desk for registration will be open from 8 o'clock, so for those of you that are just dipping for breakfast, you can come and register. Now if you do head down and there is a large queue, do bear in mind that there is the bar is directly next door, which is perfect. There's absolutely no need for you to queue for a very, very long period of time, not unless everybody all attends at once, and we will have 4 different people dealing with event registration this time. So when you do register, you'll need to register with the events team at the entrance to the international suite, and of course registration is where you'll get your goodie bags. You'll also get a record card for recording your games and scores over the weekend, and that will also include your ballots for all of the Hobbit hobby competitions that we're going to have over the course of the weekend as well. Now all we need from you when you register is of course your name. That's very, very important, but also a copy, whether it's on an iPhone or an iPad, or a printout of your PayPal receipt. Your PayPal receipt will act as your ticket, so although I've tried a couple of little ways of getting physical tickets out there, it's been a little bit difficult to do. So your PayPal receipt is your actual ticket receipt, and there is a code on that which will line up with our codes. So that's all you need to get yourself registered. You'll also get your lanyard and your pass, and we do ask that you wear this in order to gain entry into the international suite where the convention takes place, and that you keep that on throughout the whole weekend. The pass also allows you to get some discounts at the hotel from the bar, and also in the restaurant as well. So there are added discounts to make your Ardacon experience just that little bit cheaper and better value for money. The registration desk will also act as a lost and found over the weekend. We do ask that people don't just store things running sort of around the international suite all over the place, because it could be moved, could be removed, it could get stolen. So there will be a lost and found at the registration desk, but we'll also be running a ticketed cloakroom in that area as well, which you can use when you are looking to leave the international suite. So let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about the schedule. So the convention opens at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then what we do ask you to do is if you want to be considered for the doubles painting nominations for best doubles army, that you and your doubles partner do place your combined doubles armies on one of the tables and put down your army list next to it. Now, for doubles, of course, you have to be a participant in the doubles event itself in order to be able to enter for the best painted. And then what will be happening during that next hour, we'll be getting our painting competition team, which is going to be run by the Rotterdam White Scars this year. They're all very keen hobbyists and they're fantastic supporters of Strategy Battle Game. They're going to be running our painting competitions this year and taking care of that, and they'll be going around and placing nominations, which we'll come to a little bit later on. So if you do want to enter that, just make sure that you put those armies on display on the table with your army list clearly next to it, so they can have a walk around and they can pick the best ones. At 9:45 we'll start the briefing for our first event. So that gives about 45 minutes for people to wander around, put their doubles armies out ready for nominations. We suggest that people start clearing up their armies by 9:45, and we'll go through the Chaos in Arda briefing. Chaos in Arda is of course a fantastic icebreaker event which was invented by the DCHL, so the guys over in the USA who run the Nova Open, which I've been lucky enough to attend. It's a really good free-for-all game with 3 to 4 players playing a kind of a rolling objective card-based game, which is just fantastic fun and a really good way to get the weekend started. The Chaos in Arda event lasts between 10 and 12 p.m, at which point there will be a lunch break. Now the full rules for Chaos in Arda are in the event pack itself, and if I just scooch forward quickly, ever so slightly, to the Chaos in Arda, it's exactly the same as last year. I do recommend you have a good look at this. Apart from the fact that there's a couple of little things. DCHL Devin, who is making the trip over from the USA once again to support Ardacon, he will be helping manage this event on my behalf, and he is also bringing some specially printed decks which will be available on the tables, and the winner of each individual table game will actually win that deck. Those decks will also be available to buy, I think not far from cost, from DCHL Devon over the course of the weekend. So if you do enjoy the Chaos in Arda format, then I suggest that you get behind Devon and that you buy yourself a pack of those cards. I know I certainly will be. One of the other changes, which is specific to Ardacon Chaos in Arda, is that we really want to encourage people to bring really fluffy, themey based armies. As per last year, you have to bring an army which is from the same army list, so you must bring Rohan, or you bring Minas Tirith, or you bring the White Council. You can't bring allies and a mixture of those. Another thing that we want all players to do is at the start of every game is to look around at all of the different armies and opponents that you've got, and then secretly write down on a piece of paper, which you'll all fold up and put together somewhere on the table that nobody can see, and nominate the army that you think is the most competitive. So the army that you think, wow, this probably isn't the fluffiest army, this is the most competitive army on the table. At the end of the game, after all of the victory points have been earned and totaled up, we will open up those nominations, and for each nomination that a player receives, it'll be -2 victory points. So it just places that even greater emphasis on trying to do well with something which represents your favourite scenes in the books and the movies, and doesn't come to the forefront of the mind when it comes to competitive play. And that should add a really nice dimension of what Chaos in Arda really should be about at Ardacon, which is a fun icebreaker and a great way to meet other members of the international SBG community. So that finishes at 12 o'clock, which actually gives us an hour lunch break. And during the hour lunch break, that is when players will be able to, or the nominations for Best Painted Doubles Army will be called forward and be asked to be placed on display, and players will be able to come and make their nominations using the ballots that were on their record card, and that will be at the painting competition team's station and desk. From 12:45 p.m. we'll then do the awards for Chaos in Arda and give out the prizes for that event, and then there'll also be the briefing for Ardacon Doubles. Now Ardacon Doubles follows a similar format to last year. So Ardacon Doubles requires you and your teammate to each bring a force of 350 points, again from a single army list. Now that's not both of you bringing from a single army list. One of you, for example, might bring Rohan and the other might bring Minas Tirith. This year, we're specifically stating that you cannot bring from the same army list, so you can't get two Mordor coming together. We want you to bring different armies coming together as allies. Similar to last year, it will again be a run chase, and we'll be using the normal scenarios from the Hobbit and Unexpected Journey rules manual. Of course, in the Hobbit and Unexpected Journey rules manual, there are 6 scenarios. We're only playing 3, but they will be selected at random, which we'll roll for on the day. Now, different to last year it was decided on VP total, and it was a pure run chase based event. This time it will be based on tournament points first and foremost, and in both Ardacon Doubles and in the Grand Tournament, which we'll come on to in a little while, tournament points will be 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw, 0 for a loss, and -1 if you concede or you throw your game for whatever reason. So you'll have your 2 forces of 350 points. They must be from different army lists, and you'll be playing 3 games. BP difference will be the tiebreaker for this event. Doubles game 1 is 1 until 3 p.m. There's a 15-minute break, and then we have another game from 3:15 until 5:15 p.m. and then we have another break from 5:15 until 5:30, with the final doubles game coming at 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. So there's 2 hours per game, which is a huge extension on last year, where I believe we only had 1 hour 30 for each game at Ardacon. That gives everybody a little bit more time and for games to come to a bit more of a natural conclusion, which should help proceedings massively. And it also means that everybody's not coming in with their scores at the same time. It should ease the pressure on your event team. So the doubles reckoning will be between 7:30 and 7:45, at which point we will do the doubles awards, which will also include the award for Best Painted Doubles Army, as per voted by you guys. We then have, and remember these things are subject to change in terms of where they are on the schedule, but this is how it is looking as things stand. At 8 p.m, the Middle Earth team, the SBG Middle Earth team, will be running a Q&A and a seminar, which is hugely exciting as ever, and an opportunity to hear about all of the latest upcoming releases, see spoilers. They always run a great slideshow, and are always very, very willing to talk about what we have to look forward to next. I'm sure there'll be lots of gasps and rounds of applause, as there ever is. And it's also an opportunity for you guys to get your questions to the Middle Earth SBG team, Adam Troke and Jay Clare. At which point you can just get involved in all the different things which are going on at the convention, of which there are quite a lot. The convention bar, the suite bar, doesn't close until 1 p.m. in the morning. It's manned until then, so you can stay up late, you can have some fun with all of your Hobbit SBG pals from around the world, because the convention suite on the Saturday doesn't open until 9 o'clock. Now it's important, I think it's a good opportunity, rather than just talking through the schedule at that point, let's talk about some of the rules which go between Ardacon Doubles, which is on the Friday, but also the Grand Tournament as well. So for Ardacon Doubles, it's 350 points per player, 700 points per team. Now, army list submissions, we want your army lists to be sent electronically in advance. It's very important that you do this, otherwise we will be docking tournament points. This helps us hugely with our organisation, and whilst at a smaller event, 1 or 2 people doing it, it's not too much of a problem. The moment that you get 50 people all handed in their army list late, it becomes a huge problem and has a massive knock-on effect to everybody else at the event. So we do ask that you submit all of your army list, doubles and singles army lists no later than the 31st of July, which is about a week before. We will then check those, and we will actually print out your army lists and we will sign and stamp them. This army list is the army list that you must use and you must show to your opponent before each game. No other army list will be accepted. If you present a different army list and are unable to provide the stamped and signed army list, then you could be in a lot of trouble. And this is just to prevent any shenanigans should they arise, which I'm sure that they won't. So we do ask that you do that. Of course, we're playing on 4x4 tables, which is the norm really for SBG these days. And just to go into a little bit more depth for doubles itself. Now, for doubles, you and your partner constitute two 350 point army forces, which come together to make a 700 point army. Now, each force has a designated leader, and at the start of each game, in full view of your opponent, you have to do a 50-50 roll to see which force leader will be your army general for the purposes of VP scoring for the rest of that game, which creates quite an interesting dynamic. And which is always fun. And do remember that when you're playing doubles, the army breakpoint is calculated as a whole, not for each individual force. So that's quite important. Now, here are some of the restrictions that we have in place, not just for the doubles event, but for all of the events throughout Ardacon SBG International this year. So as per the rules for the Great British Hobbit League, the only banned model is 0 Point Gollum, because he's very much a scenario and situational model. So 0 Point Gollum is not allowed. As ever, all miniatures must be fully painted and based. You don't have to be the best painter in the world, but a degree of effort is required, and if you are unable to do so, that will result in some form of disciplinary action. Proxies are not permitted, so direct proxies are a bit of a thumbs down, but conversions are welcome. You know, we're not quite as strict as what goes on at Warhammer World itself in terms of Games Workshop components and the like. We do welcome a degree of creativity from you guys out there, and if you're unsure about anything or you think something looks cool and you just want to run it by me, then do send across your pictures to hotgatesgaming@gmail.com, and I will get back to you and let you know if things are okay. Now, all models, this is a really key and important one to point out, and it's one which I borrowed from DCHL Devin, who always comes up with reasonably good ideas, and I did like this one. All models must be armed according to how miniatures are modelled. I'll explain. Warriors of Rohan are modelled with a variety of swords and axes. Some of them have got throwing spears and the like. But not with flails. So they could not be converted to carry a flail all of a sudden. And the exact same could be said for, I guess the most common one is attaching axes to miniatures, which are not modelled anywhere in their range with axes. Now, in the case of orcs, you know, orcs tend to be armed with picks, axes, and pickaxes and swords. That doesn't mean that you couldn't convert your sword wielding orcs to be carrying axes and use that for piercing strike, but it would mean that you wouldn't be able to model axes on your wood elves, for example, because they are not modelled originally as carrying those axes. And that's just to apply that side of balance, so that not everybody, from a competitive point of view, is doing conversions for perhaps different kind of reasons. So that's going to be a very important rule for all of the events at Ardacon 2017. If you have already, for whatever reason, made those conversions to miniatures, for example, if you have some wozes and you have axes on them, all it means is that you don't have to take those axes off. you just wouldn't be able to benefit from the special strike. So that's the thinking behind that rule. And yeah, it means that some factions have inbuilt advantages and others do not, which I think is pretty cool. Now, each model must represent exactly what it is in your army list. If a model is armed with a spear, for example, you can't just say it has a spear if it's not clear to your opponent that it has a spear. Now, there can be some exceptions to this, particularly in armies where, you know, everything has one thing. But on the whole, if you're unsure, it's best to check, and again, email hotgatesgaming@gmail.com. Where this is, or where this can be less confusing, is, for example, in the case of a hero, where maybe there isn't a sculpt of that hero carrying a particular type of equipment, but it is listed as being able to have that. That's not as essential because it's not confusing for your opponents. The reason why we ask you to make sure it is, where possible, WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. We understand that that's not always going to be the case, but as long as it's clear to your opponent what's going on, then we're pretty happy with that. But again, if you're unsure, do contact Hot Gates Gaming. So those are some of the restrictions. Now, doubles and the grand tournament are paired randomly in the first round. Those draws will be up when you arrive. You'll be able to see those in advance. You'll know what table that you are going to in advance for Friday and for Saturday, so there won't be any waiting around trying to work out which table you're on. But then for the rest of the games we will be using Swiss ranking, and as I mentioned before, we'll have tournament points followed by victory points difference. In terms of recording scores, you will have a record sheet which we ask you to fill out for your own records, which is always good if you want to do any kind of logs or blogs afterwards, or you just want to know who you played, what you're playing against, and what the score was. But you'll also be able to detach part of that record card and be able to give it in at our scores desk, which will be manned. So I hope that's helpful. So let's talk a little bit about the ground tournament. Now, the ground tournament kicks off on the Saturday. So the convention suite doors open at 9 o'clock. You know, people who didn't register on the Friday, you can just come and register at the registration desk at 9 o'clock on the Saturday. But the grand tournament game one doesn't start until 10 o'clock. Now, remember, for the grand tournament, we ask you to bring 700 points. And the games will be lasting 2 hours. The tournament itself is a 6-game tournament with a 7th game for the top 2 players who'll play each other in a championship round, which other players will be able to spectate and watch, hopefully on the big screen, but we'll also create an area which will be quite exciting, be very, very exciting. Now, we have a lunch break from 12 until 1 on the Saturday. If I just nip back to the schedule. Now, in the morning, when the convention suite opens, we have some more of our painting competitions, and the painting competition team will be taking entries for the best painted hero, the best painted monster, best painted warband, best painted command set, 4 miniatures. Warband is hero and 6 troops. Hero is a mounted or on foot hero, but no monstrous mounts. A monster can include siege engines and chariots as well. But very, very exciting. We are going to be introducing Middle-earth on Parade, which is a 24-inch by 24-inch display board and army, which should be super cool because we know that so many hobbyists around the world love getting involved in armies on parade around Games Workshop stores, you know, internationally. So it'd be wonderful to really make you know, the international hobby Middle-earth on Parade be something which we regularly do at Ardacon. We're looking forward to seeing entries for that. So you register that between 9 and 9:45. Grand tournament briefing is at 9:45. Then of course we've got game 1, 2 hours from 10 till 12. We have the lunch break, at which point the voting for all of those different categories will go on. Then we have game 2, 1 until 3, with a 15-minute break at the end. Then 3:15 until 5:15 is game 3, again with another 15-minute break, and then 5:30 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. we have the grand tournament game 4. So just the 4 games on the Saturday, which means that we should be wrapping up 7:45, which is when we'll be doing the game, the day 2 draw for the grand tournament. We'll then be having the SBG Fanzine magazine release Q&A with Tom and Damien, because of course they will be releasing SBG magazine issue 5, which is very, very, very exciting. It's an opportunity to see how they put the magazine together and ask those guys some questions. I'm sure that's going to be absolutely fascinating. I know that I'm really looking forward to that. We'll also be having a quiz that night as well from 8 o'clock. Everybody loves a quiz. Good opportunity for everybody to get their beers and catch up again with all of their Hobbit buddies. Convention bar doesn't close until 1 p.m. So again, you've got the whole evening of Ardacon goodness for you to enjoy, all the different participation games and stands and stalls and entertainment and all the different things that we're going to have going on for you at the convention. Let's just talk very quickly about the grand tournament and specifically the World Team Championship side of things itself. So 6 games, top 2 players after 6 games will play a 7th game for the title of World SBG Champion and then runner-up. The army size is 700 points. There aren't any restrictions on that apart from the ones that I mentioned earlier. Army list must be submitted before the 31st of July. And you must use the checked, printed, stamped and signed version. The scenarios will be randomly selected, and the scenarios for the grand tournament will be the 6 scenarios with tweaks, which we will come to, that were used at the Warhammer World grand tournament back in February. So these were reasonably similar in some ways to the scenarios from the main rulebook, but the main changes that we saw was that there were some changes to deployment, that there was a VP cap, and there was also a new scenario as well, Ages of Heirlooms Past. So those were really, really interesting. We will be using those for Ardacon 2017 with an errata, which we'll go through during this video. And they will be randomly selected from, and if you play Domination Game 1, that will then be struck off and you can't play that again. That is relevant until we get to the 7th game between the top 2 players, at which point that will be reset and they could play any one of the 6. They have to bear that in mind when they are building their army lists. Again, it's tournament points first and foremost. 3 for a win, draw 1, loss 0, concede is -1. And then let's talk a little bit about the World Team Championships element of this. Now remember, the Grand Tournament is a singles event in all ways, really, apart from this structure here. We are also looking for the best team in the world, the best club in the world. This is a massively inclusive club-based event. We do get teams coming over representing their countries from around the world. I believe that we had over 17 different countries represented last time, which was amazing. And of course we have the Polish Hussars who won out in the end, only just. But this is how the rules for the World Team Championships. Now, you don't have to be part of a team, but if you do want to come as part of a team, here are the following rules for the World Team Championships. Teams must consist of a minimum of 4 players and a maximum of 9 players. We're not going to be taking teams of less than 4 people this time. And remember that scoring is worked from your best 4 results from your team of players and placings, and what that is added together. Teams will adhere to the unified format, which is detailed below. So let's talk about the unified format. So unified format means that named heroes will only be allowed to feature in one army list in each team for the World Team Championships. For example, if one player selects the Undying for their army, then no other player in the team will be able to choose the Undying. The exceptions to this would be a situation where you have a profile that is the same character but in good and in evil. So Saruman's an example of that, and I suppose Gollum and Smeagol would be an example. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. But what you couldn't do is you couldn't take one Aragorn and then take another Aragorn in a different list. You couldn't take Gandalf the Grey in your team and Gandalf the White in your team. But this also means that you couldn't do things like take more than 9 ring wraiths. There are only 9 ring wraiths as an example of that. So that's how the unified format works. And it's pretty clear, and one of the great things about that is it means that your team really has to strategize in advance of the event. So let's talk a little bit more about that team dynamic, because one member of the team will have to be the designated team captain. The team captain is responsible for gathering together and submitting the team army lists, as well as generally organising the team. We don't want to receive individual army lists from teams separately. They must come in together as a team, and the team captain must do that. If that doesn't happen, then we will be docking points as an incentive to make sure that you adhere to the rules of this event. The team captain will also be involved in any serious disciplinary procedures involving any member of the team. So if there is the very, very, very rare occasion that something gets a bit out of hand and a warning has been given and that warning isn't adhered to, or players we've had a chat with players and things aren't really working out, we will bring over the team captains just so that it's very, very clear what those next steps will be. But we're pretty sure that won't happen, but that will be another role of the team captain. So in the World Team Championship final ranking is determined by the combined best 4 placings from each team after the games. In the result of a tie, the 5th best placing will be taken into account. So as I'm sure you can imagine, it's the lowest number will be the winners. So the guys who managed to finish the highest as a team, and that's the 4 best. The 4 best people from your team. So if you have a team of 9, only the 4 best scores. Of course, that gives you a greater chance of placing high and is a little bit more forgiving, but at the same time that then hinders you from the unified format point of view. So it'll be interesting to see whether teams go smaller in order to be able to get the most from as many of the different profiles that they possibly can, or whether teams will be happy to be bigger. So that will be a very interesting dynamic, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Now, players from the same team avoid playing each other throughout the duration of the Grand Tournament and the World Team Championship. So teammates can't play each other, and that's the way that it should be in a kind of team-based event. But this is also a Grand Tournament. And because it's a Grand Tournament, the only time when you can play against a teammate is when the championship round, the 7th game comes into play, where the top 2 players play for 1st and 2nd. Now, at that point, the rankings for the World Team Championships will have already been set in stone and don't really matter as much. But that's the only time that you can play against a teammate is in that final 7th game. Everybody else at that point can go and enjoy the convention, or they can choose to watch and spectate the 2 best players in the world duke it out. So that's some of the World Team Championship rules, and talking a little bit about the unified format. Now, the rules pack talks about the new scenarios for the Grand Tournament, which are Domination, To the Death, Hold Ground, Lords of Battle, Reconnoiter, Heirlooms of Ages Past, and you'll be able to find a link to those scenarios that we used at the Grand Tournament of Warhammer World in February in the which is downloadable next to the event pack over on hotgatesgaming.com. But then we do have some scenario errata here, so some changes to some of the scenarios for Ardacon. It's very important that you're clear on what they are before you attend the event. So we have made a change, an errata change to Hold Ground in the special rules, which is for Maelstrom of Battle. So once priority is rolled for turn 1, players will alternate between moving on warbands as per Maelstrom of Battle rules, starting with the player who has priority. So instead of you roll for priority, you deploy everything, then the next player comes on and they deploy, vice versa, you alternate warbands until the movement phase is done, and then the player with priority carries on with shooting, etc. And that's the only change for Hold Ground. And then there's one other scenario that we've made errata changes to, and that's heirlooms of ages past. And we do have some reasons for this. It's to make the game, especially with it being in such a hyper competitive, from the top table point of view anyway, we're going to get lots and lots of people who are coming to Ardacon just to enjoy playing lots of different people from different places. But scenarios which can be determined by a single dice roll a lot, we have looked to address, and heirlooms of ages past is one of those. So the errata for heirlooms of ages past objectives change to game ends at the end of the turn. An army is reduced to 25%. So instead of the game ending on the roll of a 1 or a 2 and the turn that one of you has broken, it is now a 25% end game. And that's to avoid a situation where someone just digs up the heirloom, gets broken and it ends first turn, and the other player hasn't really had much of a chance to get that. We've also made changes to more of the objectives. Change the victory points awarded for being in possession of the relic at the end of the game to 5. And in the meantime, change the victory points awarded for breaking the enemy without being breaking from 2 to 3. So it just takes ever so slightly, again, if you dig up the prize, if you're the player that digs up the prize, it doesn't become an auto win if you've done that straight away and the opponent's got no way of getting to you for whatever reason. It just makes it a little bit more competitive, and it be as important to focus on trying to chop through your opponent. Now we've also made the same changes to Maelstrom of Battle for the special rules, so it alternates, again removing that bit of ill luck if you win priority and have some unfortunate rolls which lose you the game before the game started. And then we also have made a change to the special rule uncovering the relic. So players may not attempt to uncover a relic until turn 3 onwards. So you can't just walk on and uncover a relic on turn 1 or turn 2. You have to wait until turn 3 to start trying to uncover the relics. And that just makes positioning and that whole side of the game even more important. And again, it's less luck orientated. Someone happens to just walk up and rolls a 6 the first time, and then that's that. So those are the scenario erratas. Now I've also included an army list format, which I would like people to follow, which is a pretty straightforward guide, but it's key that we don't receive abbreviations, that we have somebody's name, the tournament that they're participating in, who their World Team Championship team is, what they're called, and your faction category. Now remember, the faction categories or the army categories, you can become a category winner. You could be the best Kingdoms of Men player, or the best Fallen Realms player, or the best player with a Hobbit Good force, and vice versa. That is a prestigious title at Ardacon. Not everybody can be the SBG World Champion, but maybe you've got a better chance of being the best Moria and Angmar player, for example. And those army categories are as follows: Kingdoms of Men, Free Peoples, Moria and Angmar, Mordor, Fallen Realms. Then we've also got Hobbit Good, which is any alliance of Hobbit era good. So that's not alliance with anything that's Lord of the Rings era, that's just Hobbit era good. And that includes all of the stuff from An Unexpected Journey right through to there and back again. That's the same for Hobbit Evil. But then we've also got the Forces of Darkness, which is any evil alliance, whether it's a mixture of just Lord of the Rings or a mixture of Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, evil or good. So we've got Forces of Darkness and Forces of Light. So make sure you do place and write down what your army category is. Remember, you're not Kingdoms of Men if you've got a Rohan army with Gandalf the White. That would be a Forces of Light because you have an ally from the Fellowship. So that's an example of that there for you. And I've put in that you put in your faction category, you need to write down the warband, what source book that warband has been drawn from. You need to write down the warband leader, whether they're the general, their kit, and then the total points of that. And I've given a breakdown of how to do that for the army list format, and that's how I would like to receive them, just very, very simple, like that. Anything different and we may drop points. So we do have a code of conduct and a disciplinary procedure here. We have a very clear disciplinary procedure, but it's important that that can be fluid as well, so people don't just play around the disciplinary procedure. But in the case of any foul play, or if you're not happy with anything that happens at the tournament at all, you must let your referees know. We have a head referee this time, who is the well-distinguished Daniel Entwistle, who will be playing a huge part in Ardacon 2017, and he'll be managing other referees at the event as well. And if you do have any problems or any complaints about anything whatsoever, do make sure that you let him know. Now we'll come over, we'll see what's been going on, we'll give a light warning, and we'll just say, look, sort it out, this is a game. We'll try and sort out the issues there and then, but we'll also let everybody know what the next step is. And the next step, it might involve bringing the team captains over, and maybe if it's bad enough, getting someone to watch the game. And if we feel that there really is foul play, or anybody really is taking the mic, shall we say, then that's when we could get a situation where you forfeit the game, you're docked points, and your team is docked points as well. But we have to cover that for formalities. I'm pretty sure that that won't happen. We also have a code of conduct, which includes things like punctuality. Make sure that you arrive to your games on time. Anybody who's turned up at their game later than 5 minutes without a really, really, really good reason, that affects the running of the entire whole event experience for everybody. If you arrive late, or we have to delay your game for whatever reason, as well as not being fair on your opponent, and also in-game tracking. So although most of us keep our own tracking of might, will, fate, make sure that you have a mutually agreed sheet where you both agree when you're checking out will and might and the like, just to avoid any potential confusion in the game. If you do get a referee over, do make sure if it's a rules query that you have checked the rules book and the like first, and that you don't use the or expect the referees to come up with quick answers. Make sure that you have a look through first and foremost, and only bring the referee up if something is confusing or still disputed, at which point we'll ask to hear both sides and we'll make a ruling, and then please do respect that ruling. If anybody continues to disagree, then unfortunately that's not going to be taken very well. Another thing I'd like to point out as well is the clock. If you feel that your opponent is wasting time, then again, do call over a referee and we can have a little look and see how long the round times and the turn times are taking. But at the same time, although this isn't a dice down game, we do ask players to finish the turn they're on. If you're aware of the clock and there are seconds remaining, please do not speed up in order to get a full turn with seconds remaining by rolling for priority. If it's coming up to the end and you don't feel like you could get, another turn in within less than 5 minutes, then, you shouldn't be rolling for the next turn. And we just ask people to use a little bit of common sense when it comes to that. And if you're not sure, call over a referee, and again we'll make a ruling on whether you can play another turn or not. So those are a couple of the kind of official things, discipline and the like, and army categories. Now there's a ton of things here in the event schedule about some of the things which are going on. Of course, we've got the Middle Earth team. Forge World will be there again, and they're going to have a fully stocked stand, not just with I suppose what you consider to be the expected Middle Earth stock, but we're also going to have those event exclusives, so miniatures that they have released for Warhammer Fest only, or Warhammer World only, and they'll be available to buy at Forge World. And of course that's a great opportunity for those of you who do live abroad to save yourself a massive amount on postage, or even those of you in the UK, so you're not having to spend over £250. So those guys are going to be there. We're of course once again going to be supported by Generation Shift. SBG Magazine will have their areas. We're going to have lots of demo games going on this year. Steamforge will be back with Dark Souls and board game, and Guild Ball. Art of War Studios are going to be in attendance with some really cool widgets and tokens, which are perfect for Middle Earth, which we've been working with. We're hoping that Shadow and Flame will be back, and that Shadow, he's not one to join in with the games, but there'll be kind of a paint along with Shadow. He likes to set up his paints and get painting, and that people will be able to come over and they'll be able to paint in that area and talk to Kev and get tips and see things what he's doing, and he can offer feedback and critique as well. Our friends in the SBG community, Murtaugh, James Baldwin, has recently had a successful Kickstarter of the Drowned Earth, and we're looking forward to seeing some demo games there. There's tons of other things going on, of course. We've got various bits of Middle-earth themed entertainment, hopefully some special guests as well, which I'll talk about at some other point. The Galactic Nights will be back, so you will see Rohan warriors and Aomer and Uruk-hai and Frodo's and all of those other fantastic cosplayers who were at the event last time. And of course, then we've got the quiz as well, and quizzes are always good fun. So there's lots going on. Middle-earth Models will be in attendance, and they will be doing almost like a build along. So as well as showcasing some of their amazing terrain pieces. If you've not seen Middle-earth Models, go and check them out on Facebook. But as well as showcasing some of their amazing terrain pieces, they'll also be doing a live build, which you'll be able to see in progress over the course of the weekend, and see what they're doing with that. So there you have it. That is a full run through of the event pack for Ardacon 2017. I'd like to give a big shout out to everybody who's going to be helping me at this year's event and everybody who's bought tickets so far. If you have any questions, of course, about the rules pack, feel free to ask in the comments of this video on the Ardacon 2017 Facebook page. Or of course you can email me directly at hotgatesgaming@gmail.com. It's pretty comprehensive, this stuff, and I hope that it helps you. I'm sorry you've all had to wait so long, but that is life. I hope you're as stoked for Ardacon 2017 as I am. If you've not bought your ticket yet, get on it, especially if you're looking for a room at the Macleod at the discounted rate, because I believe that there is literally a handful left, or maybe less than 2 handfuls left. So guys, really looking forward to welcoming the international community back to Manchester for the world's largest SBG event. See you all soon, guys.